Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for that introduction, and thank you for the privilege to talk today on this topic. So I'm going to be focusing on how to build a program. I have nothing to disclose. We're going to talk a little bit about how to build that structure, determining who your leadership is, building a business plan, and then building a program that's meant for success in the short term and also for the future. So, as Nicole mentioned, I'm from Delaware. For those of you who don't know where Delaware is, I included a map. Okay, so Maryland, Pennsylvania, Jersey, we're in the northern part of Delaware. And I'm the medical director of our bariatric surgery program. When I came on board as a hospital-employed surgeon, we actually didn't have a practice of bariatric surgeons, so I helped build that practice in-house, and that then came right underneath that program. From my experience, I also want to mention that I was, with my team, able to build an innovative destination program. So half of my practice is actually made up of patients who come from out of our state, fly in, have their surgery at this state called Delaware, and go back home afterwards. So I really learned a lot from that program, and some of the things I'm going to mention today are from that education. And right now I'm in the process of building a second bariatric center of excellence at our newly acquired hospital in Maryland, which again is right next to Delaware, in Cecil County specifically. So I'm going to kind of build on those past experiences. So first step when you're undergoing the build of a program is this easy step. Okay, where are you coming from? Are you in private practice? Are you in with a large surgical group? Are you hospital employed? You should know those answers pretty readily. But also figure out where are you going to build this program. So the program is usually at an institution, at a hospital system, a surgery center. So you need to determine, are your cases going to be outpatient, inpatient? What's the payer mix? What kind of insurance coverage do you have in your region? It's going to vary state to state for sure. And as you do that, as you determine where you want to have that program, you need to determine who the leaders are that are going to allow you to build that program. Can't just bring that into a hospital and not tell the leadership. So who are your leaders that have to get buy-in? So that's actually you mandate an early meeting there. Talk to that leadership, say, hey, I'd really be interested in talking about building a bariatric program. What do you think about this? So you need that early buy-in before you go and proceed on the next steps. So you're going to start thinking about, what do I need to build this program? So what staff am I going to need? It's not just the surgeons, right? It's all the support team that goes around that. Now I'll speak specifically about bariatrics. It's also going to include a multidisciplinary team in a lot of cases. So dietitians, how many dietitians, a psychologist, and then how are you going to get those things approved from insurance standpoint, right? So you may need billing and coding, a data manager, somebody does prior authorizations. For bariatrics, we need a data analyst and a coordinator that's mandated for a center of excellence. So who is going to hire those folks and where are they going to be housed? And also, who is going to be needed at the start of the program? A lot of times, you can't just bring a surgeon in and have them just start going, because if you don't have the infrastructure, they can't be successful and can't do it right. And you also got to think, okay, well, what kind of instruments do I need? What do I need? Do I want EndoFlip? Do I need bariatric length, instruments in the OR? Do I want a robot? This is a very big wish list, okay? So you got to set your expectations well. And you also have to realize that maybe some things can be purchased without capital funding, and some things you will need, like a robot, you're going to need to make sure that goes on the budget. So you're going to have to put in an attempt to get the things that you need, knowing that you may not get everything. So what can you live with and what can you live without in the short term and long term? Okay, so you figured out some of the things that you need. You've met with some leaders that are already giving some buy-in, but you need to make sure you get all members together, okay? So for bariatrics, for example, we had to make sure that the director of our weight management programs, our non-surgical arm, was on board with it, right? So you gotta make sure that they're okay with it. So you gotta find your allies, make sure that they're all supporting you. Your business associates and administrators are the most important, by the way, because they're gonna help you with your next steps. One of the questions that was asked to me is, what was something that I wish I knew earlier? And this was great advice that I got, which is a little bit into my programmatic development, but meeting with leaders of programs within the organization where you're going. So I actually sat down with our director of their cancer center, and basically interviewed him, took notes. What were some of the stumbling blocks that you interacted with and encountered while building your program? Really helpful, a lot of great information that's specific to your organization. And then you want to find some mentors, okay? So mentors that are either in your institution, outside your institution. What have they done? How did they do it well? And again, what stumbling blocks did they get into? So now you're going to start taking all this information and you're going to create something called a pro forma. So this is, by the way, this is not for everyone. You got to get support to do this. You need somebody in finance. You need a business administrator to help put this together. But you're going to start putting together a projected financial statement that's going to say to the hospital, this is how our program's going to run, and this is the projected financial statement for the years, in the first early years of the program. Okay, what do you need? You're first going to gather info, and I'm not sure, oh good, it does project pretty well. You're going to gather information. So a lot of hospital systems will do, they'll do like a market analysis. Large hospital systems do this every probably 3 to 5 years, where they look inside their community and say, hey, what do we need what needs are being met and which needs are being unmet? And so you want to look at that market analysis, and that needs to go into your pro forma. Look at historical volumes, maybe in other areas nearby. Look at the population. Do you have the population of patients that need your skill set in your program? Also, I think it's really important to consider rounding and call schedules. I will tell you, a nearby program wanted to bring in bariatrics. They hired a bariatric surgeon, and then none of the general surgeons wanted to take call for that bariatric surgeon. So that bariatric surgeon was on call 24/7, 365 days a year. That is like a recipe for burnout, right? So make sure that you've got all that really set in place before you start making your hiring. Do you need space? Is there a building that you need? Is there a space you need to run the program out of, or is it going to come out of your clinic? And again, any ancillary staff that we already talked about. And then you're going to start to make assumptions within that pro forma. And again, this is where your financial leadership is going to come in handy to help you with this part. So you're going to say, I expect to get at 2 years at 200 bariatric cases a year. And you want to give a pretty modest expectation, okay? Don't set these high expectations that you don't think you can meet, because it just looks poor, okay, to your leadership. So really set very accurate expectations without going overboard, okay? Also, make sure that leadership understands that there's ramp-up time for certain programs. Bariatrics is a very key one here, because you're not really getting patients through the system on day one. It takes several months to start getting that volume up. And so you want to set that in your pro forma so they know to expect that there is a ramp-up period. And then lastly, you want to reassess. And that reassessment, how you're going to do that, needs to go into that pro forma. So you're going to talk about, repeating a market analysis. So you get all that together, you present it to leadership, you're good to go. Now next steps, you start building your protocols, keeping yourself organized, and you want to start communicating to not only the community, but your primary care doctors. Here's what we are, and here's how we're doing, and here are the patients that we need to get referred in that meet indications for bariatric surgery, for hernia surgery, et cetera. You want to set up regular meetings with your team from that point forward. And that was really important for us. That was probably the best advice that I've been given as well, is to make sure that you are having regular meetings with your entire team. It helps the team stay nimble. You're going to continually share your vision with that team. You're going to clearly define roles and responsibilities for every teammate that helps relieve tension. And you're going to learn to delegate. That's probably something I still have to learn. But you want to delegate as much as you can so that you can go on and start working on other projects. And then finally, you've got everything running, your program's up and going, and now you need to talk about long-term strategies. So one thing that I do probably every 2 to 3 years is develop a strategic plan. It's a 1 to 2 page plan that I present to leadership. First part is just an executive summary. It's an overview of what our program has been doing, where we expect to go. Mission statement and vision, this gets developed by our team. We have big annual reviews where we develop some of these things and make sure we're editing and keeping them up to our standards. And then I have a list of short-term and long-term goals for the program. And then I present that right to leadership so that they know exactly what they've invested in and that return on investment every year. So in conclusion, building a program is not an easy task. It was very hard, by the way, to put this together in a 10-minute discussion, because I could go on hours about how to build a program. But the biggest thing is find your allies, find your leadership, communicate with them, be transparent on your expectations, and you will have a successful program. Thank you very much. I'll take questions at the end.